Interesting how a single moment can shatter every illusion you've ever forced yourself to believe about your own family. For me, it happened on a warm Saturday afternoon, sun shining, neighbors clapping, my parents glowing with pride as my sister stood beside her brand new BMW wrapped with a huge red bow. And me? They pressed $2 wrinkled into my palm like I was a stranger they pitied. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. But at 2 a.m. that night, I made a decision that would change everything. My name is Crystal, and this is what happened. Growing up, my parents always said they loved my sister, Harper, and me equally. But equal love isn't about words, it's about actions. And their actions had been telling a very different story for as long as I could remember. Harper was the golden child. The son they revolved around. The one they bragged about to relatives, even when she had nothing worth bragging about. If Harper got a B in school, they celebrated like she'd cured a disease. When I got straight A's? They said I should stay humble and not make Harper feel bad. By the time we were adults, the pattern wasn't subtle anymore. It was bold. Loud. Unapologetic. Harper got her college paid for. I worked 2 part-time jobs to afford mine. Harper got help with rent. I was told, life is hard, Crystal. You need to learn independence. But I kept swallowing it, kept telling myself that one day they'd see the difference. One day they'd recognize all the effort I put into my life. One day they'd treat me like family, not furniture. That day never came. And even though I saw the signs, even though I felt the sting every time Harper got praised while I got dismissed, I still tried to see the good in them. I still visited. I still helped. I still answered every guilt-tripping phone call. Because that's what daughters do, right? But everything has a limit. And mine arrived the moment that red bow shimmered in the sunlight and my mother shouted, Harper deserves this. She's been through so much. As if I hadn't been through anything at all. The BMW reveal was a whole production. My parents planned it like a movie premiere. There were balloons, streamers, cupcakes arranged in the shape of the number 25. They invited neighbors, co-workers, church friends, everyone who ever needed to witness how devoted they were to their precious daughter. The moment Harper stepped outside, she gasped with this exaggerated, dramatic sound, like an actress in a soap opera. She covered her mouth, squealed, then jogged over to the car while everyone clapped. She didn't even hesitate to pose next to it, running her hand dramatically along the hood while people took pictures. My parents beamed with pride, standing behind her like they had raised a Nobel Prize winner. Meanwhile, I stood in the back, half hidden behind a patio chair, holding a paper plate with a cupcake I didn't want. No one looked at me. No one asked me to come closer. No one said, Crystal, get in the picture too. I was invisible. But the moment that truly sealed everything wasn't the BMW. It wasn't the celebration. It wasn't even the way Harper smugly told me she deserved it because she worked so hard. No. It was when my dad walked over to me, smiling awkwardly, patting his pockets before pulling out 2 crumpled $1 bills. Here, he said. This is for you too. We didn't forget you. He slipped the money into my hand like he was giving a tip to a gas station attendant. $2. 2. I stared at them, stunned. At first, I thought it was a joke. A prank. Something he'd laugh about and then hand me something real. But no laugh came. No explanation. No apology. Just $2 and a nod like I should be grateful. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped. I didn't confront them right there. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of watching me break, of watching me react, of making me feel like the dramatic one, as always. Instead, I stayed until the party ended. I stood through the pictures. Through the speeches. Through my mother's emotional toast about the daughter who brightens our world. Through Harper demanding everyone sit in her new car so she could show off the features. I stayed quiet. But inside, a storm was building. Every memory of being overlooked rushed through me like a flood, every birthday they forgot, every achievement they ignored, every time they dismissed me to lift Harper higher. By the time I got home that evening, the storm had turned into a plan. I sat on the edge of my bed staring at those $2 still in my hand. I didn't throw them away. I didn't rip them. I didn't do anything dramatic. I just stared. And that's when the decision formed. Not in anger. Not in revenge. But in clarity. I was done. Done being their afterthought. Done being their emotional punching bag. Done watching them treat Harper like royalty while treating me like I was borrowed space. I picked up my phone. Opened my contacts. And hovered over their names. I didn't block them yet. Not until the clock hit 2 a.m. Not until the moment felt right. Not until I knew I was truly ready to disappear from their narrative entirely. Because cutting off your family isn't an impulse. It's a funeral. A quiet one. And at 2 a.m., I finally buried every hope I'd ever had that they would love me the way they loved her. When the clock struck 2 a.m., my apartment was silent. That strange kind of silence where even the air feels heavy. I sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor with my phone glowing in the dark. My heart wasn't racing. My hands didn't shake. It was almost frightening how calm I felt, like my mind had already processed every emotion hours ago, and now I was simply carrying out the burial ritual. I opened my mother's contact first. Her picture was of her and Harper hugging at Christmas. Harper wearing a diamond necklace I'd never seen before. Me nowhere in the photo. I pressed block. The confirmation popped up. I hit yes. Then my father. Blocked. Then Harper. Blocked. I didn't write a goodbye message. Didn't send a voice note. Didn't unload years of pain. They didn't deserve an explanation. I set my phone down and exhaled slowly. For the first time in years, the knot in my chest loosened. I didn't realize how suffocating it had been until it was gone. But the next morning, something happened that made me realize my decision had been long overdue. My phone lit up with notifications from group chats and cousins. My aunt had posted photos of the BMW celebration. Everyone was commenting. She looks like such a princess. Well deserved, Harper. What a beautiful family moment. Then, I saw my cousin's message to me privately. Crystal, why weren't you in any of the photos? I stared at the screen. Why wasn't I in the photos? Because they didn't care. Because I was background noise. Because I never mattered enough to be included. I typed back, I wasn't asked, and left it at that. My cousin responded almost immediately, girl, that's messed up. You okay? I didn't know how to answer that yet. I decided to take the day off. I called in sick at work, even though I wasn't physically sick. Emotionally, though, I felt like I'd been scraped hollow. I wasn't fragile, I was emptied out. Like something huge had been ripped out of me, but the pain hadn't fully arrived yet. I made coffee, sat by the window, and watched the cars pass by. Normal life continued outside while mine felt paused. Then, around noon, there was a knock at my door. I froze. No one knocks on my door unexpectedly except. I didn't even want to finish the thought. I approached carefully, checked the peephole, and yeah. It was my mother. She looked furious. Not confused. Not worried. Furious. I didn't open the door. She knocked again. Harder. Crystal. Open this door right now. I stayed silent. I watched as she pulled out her phone, tried calling, and got the blocked alert. Her eyes widened. Then she frowned so deeply her entire face scrunched. She banged on the door again. Crystal, this is childish. You're being dramatic. I nearly laughed. Dramatic. The word she used whenever I dared to show the slightest pain. When I didn't answer, she switched tactics. This is about Harper's car, isn't it? We told you, we didn't have extra money for you. For me. But they had enough to buy a luxury BMW? She kept talking, ranting, justifying, blaming. She even muttered loud enough for me to hear, this is why we don't do nice things for her. She always ruins everything. I closed my eyes. And that was the final confirmation. They weren't sorry. They weren't confused. They weren't trying to understand. They were angry that I stopped playing my role. After a few minutes, she gave up and left. I watched from the window as she stomped to her car and drove away. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. Just relief. 2 days went by with silence from my parents, but the world around me wasn't quiet. Word spread through the family faster than I expected. My aunt called. My uncle messaged. My grandmother sent a voice note saying she didn't want to get involved, but this was hurtful. I ignored them all. Then my cousin Danny showed up at my apartment unannounced. Thankfully, she's the one relative I actually trust. She didn't knock like my mother. She tapped lightly as if asking permission to exist in my space. When I opened the door, she looked at me with a mix of worry and anger. "Crystal," she said softly, "what the hell happened?" I stepped aside to let her in. We sat on the couch, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. Then it all poured out: the BMW, the party, the pictures, the $2, the years of favoritism, the subtle digs, the emotional exhaustion. By the time I finished, Danny looked like she wanted to throw something. "They gave Harper a BMW and gave you $2, she repeated, as if confirming she hadn't misheard. "2, I affirmed. Crumpled. "Crystal, that's not favoritism. That's cruelty." Hearing someone else say it out loud, someone who wasn't emotionally invested in defending them, made something inside me click. "It's been like this forever," I admitted. "I guess I kept hoping they'd change." Danny shook her head. "They're not going to." "And cutting them off?" "Honestly, I'm proud of you." Proud. I hadn't heard that word directed at me in a long, long time. Then she leaned back and sighed. "But, you should know something. They're telling everyone that you stormed off and ruined Harper's special day." I laughed, actually laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. "Of course they are." Danny placed a hand on mine. "Just, don't let them drag you back in." "They'll try." I nodded, but inside, I was already certain. I wasn't going back. Not now. Not ever. For a few days, life felt strangely peaceful. Almost too peaceful. Like the calm that settles over the ocean before a hurricane makes landfall. I went to work, came home, cooked my meals, listened to music. For the first time in years, I didn't jump whenever my phone buzzed. I didn't brace myself for criticism disguised as advice. I didn't absorb blame that wasn't mine. Then Thursday night arrived. I was brushing my teeth when my phone lit up with a barrage of notifications, texts, DMs, missed calls from unknown numbers. My stomach tightened. I wiped my mouth, picked up my phone, and opened the first message. It was from an unfamiliar number. "Crystal, this is your father. You need to unblock us now." Another message appeared instantly. "We need to talk about what happened. You overreacted." Overreacted. There it was again. I didn't respond. More messages came flooding in, some passive-aggressive, some outright hostile, some pretending to be reasonable. None of them acknowledged the actual issue. Then I got a message from Harper. "Really? You're making such a big deal over $2? Grow up, Crystal." I stared at the message, stunned at the lack of self-awareness. Then she followed up with another. "Mom and Dad did the best they could. The car was a gift because I needed it. You don't." "Yes, because I had the audacity to work, save, and support myself without treating our parents like an ATM." I deleted her messages without replying. 5 minutes later, another number texted me. "This is Pastor Neil. Your mother asked me to reach out to you. She's very distressed." Of course she was. Distressed that the family scapegoat finally left the stage. I blocked him instantly. By midnight, my phone was lighting up non-stop, like my entire family was having a meltdown because I no longer allowed them access to me. And honestly, that told me everything I needed to know. The next morning, I woke up to silence again. Blessed silence. No new calls. No new texts. No guilt-tripping paragraphs. For a moment, I thought maybe the storm had passed. I was wrong. Around 11, there was another knock at my door. Not furious like my mother's. Not gentle like Danny's. This one was hesitant. Uncertain. Almost apologetic. I checked the peephole and saw my father standing there, hands in his pockets, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Not physically. Just diminished. I didn't open the door. He cleared his throat. Crystal? Are you home? I stayed quiet. After a few seconds, he spoke again. I know you're upset. But this is unnecessary. Unnecessary. Not we're sorry. Not we hurt you. Not we need to talk about what we did. Just unnecessary. He continued, your mother is very upset. Harper, too. They feel like you embarrassed them. Embarrassed them? I had to put my hand over my mouth to keep from laughing bitterly. He sighed, like I was the unreasonable one. Listen, your sister needed a reliable car. She's been struggling. You're doing fine. So doing fine meant I deserved scraps? Your mother told me you were given $2. It was symbolic. A joke. A joke. I felt something cold slide through my chest. Because even now, standing outside my door, trying to fix things, he couldn't admit they'd done something hurtful. He couldn't acknowledge the years of imbalance. He couldn't see beyond Harper's spotlight long enough to realize I'd been standing in the dark for decades. I'm asking you to unblock us, he said quietly. We're family. We need you. Need me? For what? To keep playing the role they assigned me? To be the quiet, obedient filler daughter who required nothing and accepted everything? I stepped away from the door. He waited another minute, then left. I didn't feel guilt this time either. Just clarity. That weekend, I went to visit Danny. She lived about 30 minutes away in a cozy townhouse that always smelled like cinnamon and lavender. Being there was like stepping into an alternate universe, a place where warmth wasn't conditional and affection wasn't selective. As soon as I walked in, she handed me a mug of tea. What happened this time? She asked gently. I told her everything, the late-night messages, the pastor's involvement, my father showing up at my door. Her eyebrows climbed higher with each detail. I swear, she muttered, they're acting like you committed a crime. I didn't even yell, I said. I didn't confront them. I just stepped back. Exactly, she said. And that's what scares them. I looked at her, confused. Scares them how? Crystal, she said, leaning forward, some families rely on a scapegoat to function. Someone they can ignore, blame, guilt, and take for granted. When that person leaves, the whole dynamic collapses. They can't blame Harper. So now they need you back. I stared into my tea, letting her words settle. She continued, but you don't owe them your peace. You don't owe them your presence. I nodded slowly, taking it in. Then she took a deep breath. There's something else you should know. Harper has been telling people you were jealous. That you threw a fit. That you stormed home crying. I blinked. I didn't cry. I know that, Danny said. But she needs people to think you did. She can't handle the idea that you simply walked away from their nonsense. A heavy silence fell. Then I asked the question that had been hovering in my mind for days. Do you think they'll ever understand why I left? Danny didn't sugarcoat it. No, she said simply. Because that would require admitting they were wrong. And people like them never think they are. I let out a slow breath. Then I guess I need to move on. Yeah, she said softly. You do. And for the first time, I felt ready to. Monday morning arrived with a strange mix of heaviness and liberation. I woke up before my alarm, stretched, and realized something felt different, quieter inside my head. I didn't feel dread. I didn't feel tension. I didn't feel like I needed to brace myself for anyone's expectations. I made coffee, sat at my kitchen counter, and opened my laptop to check emails. Work was normal. Life was normal. The world didn't crumble because I blocked my parents. And there was something empowering in that realization. Around noon, I received a message from an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to check. Hi Crystal, it's Amy from HR. Your mother called the office today. She said she urgently needed to speak with you. I froze. My mother called my workplace? Another message followed. She asked if we could give her your schedule and confirm whether you were actually at work. We didn't disclose anything, but I wanted to let you know. Everything okay? I stared at the message for nearly a minute. My mother had crossed a line. Not an emotional line. Not a moral line. A boundary so severe that it took my breath away. She had attempted to use my workplace to monitor me. To control me. To guilt me. I typed back. Thank you for letting me know. Everything is fine. I'll handle it. Fine was an exaggeration, but I wasn't about to involve HR any further. After a moment, I sat back and whispered to myself, she really can't stand losing control. Because that's what this was about. Not love. Not concern. Control. Later that afternoon, I received an email, yes, an email, from my mother. The subject line read, "Please respond immediately." I could already hear the tone. I clicked it open. And the contents were even worse than I expected. The email was long. Dramatic. Filled with guilt, denial, and a bizarre attempt to rewrite history in her favor. It started with, "Crystal, I do not understand why you are choosing to punish us." Punish. That was the word she chose. Not "I'm sorry." Not "we hurt you." Not "let's talk." Punish. She went on. "We always did our best for you and your sister. If you are upset about the car, you need to remember that Harper has had a difficult year. She needed encouragement. So buying a $60,000 BMW was encouragement? And giving me $2 was, what? A participation trophy?" Then, the part that made my stomach clench. "We spoke to Pastor Neil, and he agreed that you are acting out of pride. Pride is a dangerous path, Crystal." There it was. Weaponizing morality. Weaponizing religion. Weaponizing shame. And then came the line that confirmed everything I already knew. "We need you to apologize so we can move forward as a family." Apologize. For what? For being hurt? For being tired? For finally standing up for myself? She ended with, "We are willing to forgive your reaction, but only if you unblock us and come over for dinner this weekend. Harper will be there, and we want to resolve this as a family." Resolve. Meaning, sweep everything under the rug, pretend it never happened, and go back to the same dynamic that drained me. I closed my laptop gently, as if the email were something fragile. My heart wasn't racing. I didn't feel rage or sadness. I felt done. Truly, fully, completely done. Their version of resolution had always meant my silence. But I didn't owe silence anymore. I didn't owe performance. I didn't owe obedience. I didn't owe them access to me. That evening, I went for a long walk around my neighborhood, something I hadn't done in months. I breathed in the air. I listened to the wind in the trees. For once, I wasn't thinking about how to make myself small. I was thinking about how to finally make myself free. A few days later, I received a text from Danny. "Emergency. Call me ASAP." I stepped outside my office building and called her immediately. She answered on the first ring, whispering like she was in a hallway. "Crystal, you are not going to believe this," she said. My stomach tightened. "What happened?" She sighed. "Your parents showed up at Grandma's house crying. Full meltdown. Telling everyone you're lost and won't talk to them and that you need an intervention." I pressed 2 fingers to my temple. An intervention? For what? For setting boundaries, apparently. Danny snorted. "But that's not the worst part. They're planning something." A hollow feeling spread through my chest. "What kind of something?" "They're thinking of showing up at your workplace. At your apartment. Everywhere. They're calling it a family rescue mission." I closed my eyes, letting the information hit me one piece at a time. A rescue mission. Because the moment I stopped allowing emotional mistreatment, I became the problem that needed to be saved. "Crystal," Danny continued, "you need to prepare. If they show up at your job, that could get messy." I took a deep breath. "No. I'm not letting them escalate this." "Good," she said. "But what are you going to do?" There was a long pause. Then I said something I hadn't expected to hear come out of my own mouth. "I'm going to tell the truth." Danny blinked audibly through the phone. "Wait, like, actually confront them? Break the silence?" "Not directly," I said. But if they want the family involved? Fine. Everyone can hear my side. The real side. Danny exhaled slowly. Crystal, are you sure? That's going to cause a massive explosion. I know, I said. But I'm done hiding what they've done. If they want a public spectacle, I'll give them the truth. Not revenge. Not pettiness. Just truth. A truth they had avoided for decades. And I suddenly realized something. I wasn't afraid anymore. I don't know if you've ever reached that point where the disappointment stops hurting and just becomes clarity. That night, I reached it. After dinner, I asked Mom and Dad if we could talk privately. They followed me into the living room, completely unaware that they were about to hear the last real conversation they'd ever get from me. Mom folded her arms. What's with the attitude lately? Dad exhaled through his nose like I was exhausting him. Crystal, if this is about the car. It's not about the car, I said calmly. It's about everything. For the first time in my life, they listened. Not out of concern, out of annoyance. I laid it all out, every choice they made that chipped away at me. Every dismissal. Every time they said be the bigger person. Every time they cleaned up my sister's messes while expecting me to solve my own life like I wasn't part of the same family. Mom rolled her eyes halfway through. That's not favoritism, she said. You're just sensitive. Sensitive. That word hit me like a slap. Dad added, we just don't want fights in this house. You always make everything dramatic. My sister snorted from the kitchen doorway. I mean, you do make everything an issue. And that was it. Not because their words were the worst they'd ever said, but because I suddenly realized. They were never going to see me. Not really. Not ever. I stood up, walked upstairs, packed a single backpack, and went right back down without another word. My sister said, where are you going? I said, home. She frowned. You are home. I shook my head. No. I just live here. That's not the same thing. They didn't stop me as I walked out. They didn't even ask where I'd sleep. I closed the door behind me, sat in my car, and for the first time in years, I breathed like my lungs belonged to me. At 2 a.m., I finally sent it. The message that ended everything. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't dramatic. I was clear. I am choosing peace. Please do not contact me unless it is an emergency. Then I blocked them. Mom. Dad. My sister. Every number. Every chat. Every thread. It felt like stepping out of a burning house and realizing the smell on your clothes isn't the fire, it's the years you spent inside it. Cutting off contact wasn't easy. You don't just erase decades overnight. For the first month, I cried more than I expected. Not because I missed them, but because I finally understood I'd been asking for the bare minimum from people who couldn't even see that I was drowning. Meanwhile, life without the constant emotional noise felt silent. Quiet. Strange at first. Peaceful later. I got my own apartment, small, nothing fancy, but mine. I decorated the walls with color for the first time. I cooked meals without hearing my mom comment on how my sister does it better. I worked on myself, therapy, journaling, actual hobbies I never had time for. Not once did my phone buzz with their names, because they were still blocked. But the universe is funny. The people who claim they don't need you always seem to need you when consequences finally catch up. 2 months later, I ran into an old neighbor who still kept in touch with my mom. The first thing she said was, your parents have been telling everyone you abandoned the family. I laughed. Of course they did. But then she added something else. Your sister was in a minor accident. The BMW? Gone. Insurance didn't fully cover it. She moved back into my parents' house because the payments were too high. The job she bragged about? She quit. And now the debt my parents co-signed for, was swallowing them whole. Suddenly, I understood it. The reason they hadn't reached out wasn't pride. It was shame. They had spent years investing everything, money, time, emotional labor, into one child who treated life like a toy store. And now they were paying the bill. The funniest part? I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No revenge high. Just confirmation. Leaving was the right choice. One quiet evening, while watering my plants, I looked at the empty space on my phone screen where their names used to pop up and realized. Things didn't fall apart because I left. They fell apart because I stopped holding everything together. If you're still listening, here's what I want you to take from my story. Family doesn't get to demand loyalty while handing out crumbs. Love isn't proven by enduring disrespect. And being the bigger person shouldn't mean shrinking yourself down to fit someone else's comfort. I didn't block my family at 2 a.m. out of spite. I did it because peace shouldn't feel like a guilty secret. And if you're standing on the edge of your own breaking point, just know this. Walking away isn't failure. Sometimes, it's the first real step toward freedom.